In this demonstration, we're going to configure lifecycle management and single sign-on between two Okta orgs. My manager just contacted me and let me know that an Okta ICE partner wants to share one of their applications with the Okta ICE sales team. Based on previous interactions with this partner, we know that they're also using Okta, which is great. After a quick call with their Okta administrator, it was determined that they have two basic requirements in order to effectively share this application. The first is that Okta ICE's users be sent over to their partner tenant and created locally. The second is that SAML will be used for single sign-on. At the end of the call, we agreed that the Okta Org2Org application integration would effectively meet both the SSO and provisioning use cases and be easy and effective to set up. For the provisioning use case, Okta ICE is going to act as the authoritative source, pushing all joiner, mover, leaver events down to the destination, which is going to be the partner Okta org. For the single sign-on use case, Okta ICE will act as the SAML identity provider, sending assertions over to the partner, which will act as the SAML service provider. Now that we know both the use cases and the requirements, we can actually get this set up. So let's jump in. The first step is going to be logging into the Okta ICE org and setting up an application for Org2Org. I'm going to open the URL, type in my username and password, and click sign in. Once I'm signed in, I can hit the drop down for applications on the left and select the applications subtab. I'm going to choose the Browse App Catalog button, and I'm going to search for Okta Org2Org. Once it comes up in the list, I'm going to select it, and I'm going to click Add. I'm going to change the application label to be more fitting to my scenario. In this case, I'm going to call it Partner Org. The base URL will be provided by my partner Okta administrator. I have it here, so I'm going to paste that value in. I'm going to leave everything else as default for now and click Next. On the sign-in options, I'm going to leave SAML as our default selected, and I'll leave everything else, again, set as default, knowing that I'm going to have to come back to the hub ACS URL and the audience URI to populate those to make SSO work effectively. For now, we'll leave them blank and click Done. Now that the base application is set up, we can move on to provisioning. I'm going to click on the provisioning tab. I'm going to click Configure API integration. I'm going to check the box to enable API integration. And then I'm going to wait for security token. The partner must create an Okta org administrator along with generating a token for use in this API integration. To do that, we'll move over to the partner's Okta org and log in as a super administrator using their URL as previously seen, entering username and password and signing in. Again, we're signed into the partner Okta org as well as the Okta ICE Okta org. In the partner Okta org, we're going to scroll down on the left-hand side to Directory and People. We're going to click on Add a Person, and we're going to create an Okta ICE administrative user. Going to give it a first name and a last name, as well as an email and username. In this case, we're going to set the password manually. And I'm going to uncheck the box temporarily so that the user doesn't have to change it at first login. And I'm going to click on Save when I'm done. Do a quick refresh of the browser and see that we now have an Okta ICE administrator. The next thing I have to do is assign this user administrative permissions. Again, in the partner org, on the left frame, I'm going to expand security, select administrators, click add administrator, and then start typing in the user I just created. I'm going to check the box for super administrator. I'm going to click the add administrator button. So the user we just created is now an Okta super admin in the partner org. Based on this, I can now log out of this org as the standard super admin and log in as the newly created Okta ICE admin. Finish setting up the account. And now that I'm logged in as the new Okta ICE administrative user, I can create the API token that we'll need to perform the Org2Org app integration. From the left frame, I'm going to select security, scroll down to API, select API. I'm going to click on the tokens menu. I'm going to click create token. I'm going to give this a name for Okta ICE Org2Org. And I'm going to click create token. The token will be shown briefly on the screen. I have to copy it to the clipboard. I jump back over to my Okta ICE admin console where I left off with the security token, and I paste the value in here. When I'm ready, I'll click Test API Credentials, and I should see the org was verified successfully. When I'm ready, I'll click Save. Jumping back over to the partner org, I'm going to click OK, got it. And now I can log out as this Okta org administrative user. Moving back over to the Okta ICE org, we're now ready to move on to what provisioning events are going to be set up. On the provisioning tab, we're going to click Edit. We're going to enable Create Users. We're going to enable Update Users. And we're going to enable Deactivate Users. When I'm done, we're going to click Save. We'll note that the default mappings mentioned below are all okay as is. This provisioning event is now ready to be used once we assign users. We can click on this. We can click on the Assignments tab next. Hit the Assign dropdown and say Assign to Groups. From our previous demonstrations, we set up a couple groups to help us with application assignments. In this case, our users in the sales group are the ones that need to get pushed over to our partner org. We're going to click Assign to the sales group. We'll leave all the individual overrides for groups as default and blank, and we'll just click Save and go back. And then we'll click Done. At this point, the sales group in the Okta ICE org has been assigned to the partner org for provisioning. What this means is that members of the sales group will now be pushed over to the Okta ICE partners org. So if we move over to the Okta ICE partners org, relog back in with our traditional administrator, go to Directory, and go to People, we now see that we have one new user, Tom Jones. This user was pushed over from Okta ICE as one of the sales users members. We can compare that if we jump back over to Okta ICE, go back up to Directory and then Groups, look at the sales group, we see that Tom Jones is the only member of the sales group. So that effectively completes the provisioning setup for Tom Jones and the sales department. all user updates, creates, updates, and deactivates, will be pushed over from Okta ICE to the partner. The next step is to set up single sign-on. Again, for single sign-on, Okta ICE is acting as the identity provider in the SAML scenario. In this case, the Okta identity provider information is under the application. Click on our partner org application, click on sign on, and then click on view setup instructions. This will give you a list of elements to add to the partner org to effectively set up SAML between the two. We're going to scroll down to number 6, which has the 3 critical pieces of information that we need to set up for our partner org. We're going to jump over to the partner org. From here, we're going to go to security on the left frame, and then click on identity providers. Once we're here, we're going to click on the dropdown for add identity provider. We're going to click add SAML 2.0 IDP. We're going to give it a name. In this case, we'll call it Okta ICE IDP. We're going to hit the dropdown for the IDP username and select the first value, which is the subject name ID. And then from here, we're going to scroll down to the bottom. The only thing we're going to change from the default is if no match is found, we're going to check the radio box for redirect to Okta sign-in page. And then we're going to move down to the end, which is the SAML protocol settings, and look for the 3 values that are going to be needed from the Okta ICE org. First is the IDP issuer URI. Jumping back over to the Okta ICE org setup SSO page, the very first value under number 6 is the IDP issuer URI. We're going to copy that value and paste it into the partner org. Next is the IDP single sign-on URL. Again, jumping back over to Okta ICE, copying in the next value, the IDP single sign-on URL, and pasting that into our partner org. And then the third item is actually a download, which is going to be the X509 certificate used for signing SAML assertions. We're going to click on the link. That will perform a download to your local browser. You'll have to then package it up and send it over to the partner Okta admin. In this case, I'm going to browse for the files since I've received it. I'm going to check the options for all files. I'm going to choose my new Okta cert, click open. The cert will be uploaded, and then when I'm ready, I'm going to click add identity provider. Now that the identity provider has been added, there are a few bits of information that need to be sent from the partner back to Okta ICE. If we expand the name, we see 2 values that are important here. One is the assertion consumer service URL. We'll copy that value. And we'll paste that into the Okta ICE org. Under the sign-on tab, we'll click edit. We'll scroll down to where we see hub ACS URL. We'll paste the value in there. We'll jump back over to the partner Okta org, copy the audience URI, jump back over to the Okta ICE org and paste the value in, and click Save. So now SSO is effectively set up and can be tested out. We can close the Setup SSO tab, as we don't need that any longer. And we can log out of both orgs, since we're going to test a single sign-on with our sales user, Tom Jones. So in this case, we'll log out of Okta ICE. We'll log out of the partner org. And we will log into Okta ICE as Tom Jones. Once Tom Jones is logged in, he sees a new Okta.org a new application assigned to him called the partner org. All Tom has to do is click on this link to launch an IDP-initiated single sign-on event over to the partner. We click on the link, we see SSO happen, and then Tom lands on the partner's page at the dashboard. In this case, it could be you could see an additional application launch here for the application that's shared between the partners and Okta ICE. So at this point, we've seen effectively SSO setup, provisioning setup, and sharing between the two organizations, and this ends the demonstration.